In a two quarterback draft, everyone knows they need two quarterbacks. That doesn't mean every quarterback is worth the price. Today, we figure out when to take them and what it costs you when you get it wrong. Welcome back. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Bush League Huddle Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm Fab. I'm joined by Rog and Nacc. How we doing, ladies and gentlemen? How we doing? I'm psyched. I'm very excited. We're getting that much closer to real football, meaningful football. Preseason is underway. It's in full swing, but meaningful football is right around the corner. We spent the last 6 weeks building out our rankings. It took us 6 weeks. So there's a lot of love involved in that, a lot of effort, a lot of time, a lot of tears, a lot of sweat, a lot of all that good stuff. But now it's actually time to put them to use and get maximum value out of it. So because we're in a two quarterback and Superflex league, knowing who you like just isn't enough. You need to know when quarterback is worth the price, when you can afford to wait, and what you're passing up to get one. So today, that's what we're doing. We're building out this plan, and let's get right into it. We're going to start off with segment number 1 called the two quarterback trap. Everybody knows that quarterback matters more in this format being two quarterback and Superflex leagues. But knowing you need quarterbacks can also make you do some very, very stupid things. We've all been there before. We've all perhaps made a draft pick that wasn't the smartest idea at the time. You panic. You're like, "Oh no, what's good at it?" We've all been there. Everybody on this podcast has been there more than once. Unfortunately, also several times during the same draft. Let's just be honest now. However, Raj, what's the bigger mistake for you in a two quarterback league? Is it like really? Is it reaching for a quarterback because you're scared? Because it does happen during a draft. You know, you see a quarterback run happen, and it's like, okay, I got to get on this. Or is it waiting too long and just getting enamored with the other players that are out there looking for value and all that stuff?
Yeah, my philosophy is that I don't want to reach for a QB too early, especially with the type of skill players you're seeing lately. I am more of the philosophy where I'll wait for a quarterback. So for me, I would much rather wait. I'd much rather go for a skill position and then kind of see where everyone pivots and go with more of a skill position player. And I think we're seeing it this year. There's so much depth at the quarterback position. Obviously, we'll talk about it later with specific names. There's so much depth at the quarterback position, and I think the running backs that are in the upper echelon, the high tiers, are of the elite from a PPR perspective, especially, and obviously the wide receivers as well. High target rate, high catch rate, touchdown potential as well. So I'm a wait and see, and I've gotten burned when I've gone quarterback too early personally. So I much prefer not reaching for a quarterback.
Did you go? You went quarterback last year high, no?
Yeah,
First, Burrow? Was it Burrow?
I did, and we're going to talk a little bit about what our 2025 was, the Bush League.
We're going to get into that.
The draft that this podcast is named after, and we'll do a little revisionist history on that front. But yeah, I just think the nature of the game now in 2QB and Superflex, and from everything I'm seeing, all the draft boards I'm seeing, all the expert analysis I'm seeing, is you could definitely wait this year, and it's more in line with what you see in 1QB drafts as well. And Nacc, since you jumped in, before we go further, in terms of what we just talked about from a strategy perspective, how differently are you drafting a true 2QB league versus Superflex? And does having the option to use a skill player in that Superflex spot actually change your QB strategy?
I think it does. For sure it does. Because especially for when it comes to bye weeks, right? Where in Superflex leagues, you might think that, oh, drafting two QBs in total is enough. Whereas in a 2QB league, you almost assuredly have to have minimum 3 on your roster. And you've got to leave the draft with at least 3, because you do not want to get in that situation where it is a bye week and you're scrambling on the waiver wire hoping someone gets hurt and looking to lock up that spot. Whereas in Superflex, again, you mentioned it, you could just put anyone in there, right? So if your QB is on bye, you can put in, if one of your two QB, on your roster is on bye, you could put in a wide receiver or running back, for example. So you don't. I think it's definitely much more important drafting in a 2QB league rather than a Superflex, the QB position.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's in one of the other leagues Fab and I are in, we just implemented Superflex,
Yeah.
and we see the difference between Superflex and 2QB, which is the Bush League Huddle league that we're in. And it's just so much harder, to deal with. Again, we're going to talk about more of the strategy afterwards, but hoarding QBs becomes much tougher. Or like the guys who hoard
But
QBs, Guido, we're looking at you.
yeah.
It becomes much harder to deal with.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to hoard QBs in Superflex leagues.
Yes.
Because to
For
Nac's point,
sure.
like not a lot of players, not a lot of GMs will necessarily gravitate to having 3 quarterbacks. Whereas I do. I Roger, in our other league that we're in, like I think last year I drafted 3 quarterbacks and everyone was surprised by that. It was the first time we implemented it. And it was like, you know what? Like you want to have, I don't know, you want to have as many quarterbacks as possible in a scenario where where you can start 2. So that's just my philosophy when it comes to that stuff. Like, I mean, you know what? Then yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, just in a super flex, after you draft your first one, you could definitely wait before having to draft even your second one and fill up the
For
rest of
sure.
your roster. Whereas in 2QB league, like you don't want to get stuck with the bottom of
No,
the barrel as your QB2. But now
no,
that
yeah.
we mentioned these QBs, when the QB runs do start, Fab, what tells you whether to chase it or to let the room go?
Yeah, so this goes back to a lot of the rankings that we were doing, and it's not just about ranking players; it's putting them in tiers. And I think the tier philosophy is very important because the second you have a quarterback, is you, quarterback in tier 1, apart from like Josh Allen, who I think is really in his own tier of himself, right? But the guys after him, like the Joe Burrows of the world, the Lamar Jacksons, the Drake Mays, you know, like any one of those guys as a top QB for me, I'll be okay with. But the second it jumps out of that tier, you have to then reassess the field and reassess the other players that are out there, the skill positions, and say, like, you know what? I know quarterbacks generally get a lot of points and generally get more points than the running backs and wide receivers. We understand that. But how much are you giving up by not taking a skill position as opposed to a second tier quarterback or a third tier quarterback and like foregoing taking a like a JSN or taking a James Cook and then like jumping on the bandwagon and getting a Trevor Lawrence or Mo Nix because some sort of a run might have happened. So that's where you have to really assess and see. I think the tiers for me are the most important part of it. Once you jump out of a tier in quarterback, like you have to right away, you have to like, almost as an instant reaction, look at your wide receivers, look at your running backs and see what's out there and see like what's the drop off from one tier to the next. And that's how you make your decision.
I I tend to agree with that wholeheartedly, really, because when people are starting to grab QBs, that's when the skill positions tend to fall, and
Yeah.
that's when you can really shape up your roster.
And it goes back to that first question to Rod, right? I mean, like, don't be scared. Like, don't get scared now. Like the second the run happens, it's like, hey,
Always.
or as Lucas would say, hey, your friend, he's scared. Like, it's you gotta you gotta bring yourself back down to earth and be like, whoa, what's going on over here? But I guess that's kind of the framework when it comes to 2 quarterbacks in super flex leagues. Like, like they're not exactly the same. You can't approach them the same way, which is interesting. But in both formats, right? Like, I mean, quarterback scarcity really changes the board. The mistake is assuming that you have to take a quarterback really at any price. You don't. Like it's okay to take a look at it, to take a step back and understand what's going on. We saw the extreme version in our own league last year, in Bush League last year, where 5 quarterbacks went in the first 6 picks. And mea culpa, I was one of them, And then nobody took in a quarterback after that for like another 2 rounds, I think. So
But you finished third, right, Fab?
at the end, yes, I
The end,
finished third.
I
Yeah,
finished ninth. And like the guys who won at the end were the guys who had Chase, which is our friend Stamati, and I think CMC with or Bijan Robinson with Spiro. So it shows like you can definitely wait.
100%. You can't wait. And also shows that I'm a better GM than you are, since I also picked a bust of a quarterback in the first round and finished third, and you were ninth.
Oh, look, you could wait, but I mean, you have to hit on those quarterbacks where Estimati went chase and hit on Drake May and Bo Nix, which
Yes.
They weren't slam dunk QB1s to start the year, right? Or everyone's thoughts. So kudos for him for hitting on the two
And
quarterbacks.
and I'll go one step further. Those are two guys that were entering their sophomore season, if I'm not mistaken. And usually the sophomore slump does happen
Yeah.
to quarterbacks, and he hit
Yes.
he hit on two guys that were, not only did it not happen, but their game actually elevated.
Hmm.
So
That was
like
risky
there's a reason why,
and it actually worked.
yeah, and it paid off big time. Paid off big time. So props to Stamati. You better be listening. Props to Stamati. But yeah, so let's sort of look at like what you actually want to do depending on where you're drafting. So this next section is brought to you by Rival. So we're going to build out our Superflex plan. So before we get into our spots, our partner Rival RYVL, you see them on the screen right now. And wonderful link at the bottom over there. Our partner Rival Fantasy has a tool built around these exact decisions. So you put in your league settings and where you're drafting, and it gives you different ways to attack a Superflex draft. So whether you go quarterback early, you start with elite skill players, or wait on QB, then it maps out when to target each position and gives you players who fit that build. Who fit that build. So you're moving around your draft position, you're moving around what type of skill position to take and all that stuff, and the plan sort of updates accordingly. And that's really the cool part, right? Like when you're drafting, and the plan changes with you. So use our Rival link below to sign up and get free access to the tool. Rival Fantasy is a partner of the Bush League Huddle podcast. That's us. And so now let's do the same thing with our rankings, I guess. Move on to segment 2 over here. How round 1 changes. So we're going to look at 3 different parts of round 1: the top, the early, middle, and the back end. There's a lot of jokes in that sentence. I'm going to leave that for the viewers' discretion. I'm not going to. It's a friendly. It's a family-friendly podcast. Roger's actually drafting at the 102 spot. Nacc is the 104, and I'm at the 110. So Raj, let's start with you. Let's bring up a beautiful graphic on the board, which you always have fantastic skills when it comes to this. I got to get you on my team at work. So Raj, at the very top, you can have by the way, for those of you who are listening to this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and anywhere else that you listen to your podcast, please watch us on YouTube, because you get to see beautiful visuals like this.
On Spotify too.
On Spotify too, you get to see beautiful visuals like this. There's a lot of effort that goes into this, and it is very helpful for our podcast listeners to understand what's going on. Listen, it makes for great what's that white noise type of thing that people listen to before they go to
White noise.
but put us on while before you go to sleep, at night. Like it's a wonderful way to get wonderful dreams at night. Anyways, I digress. I apologize. So at the very top, Raj, you drafting at the 102 spot, you can have an elite quarterback sitting there, but you can also have one of the best running backs or wide receivers in fantasy. So how are you approaching that decision? You have a very, very interesting and spicy decision at the 102 spot. Very nice.
And we need to tell listeners, these are our real Bush League, main league draft positions. So we are going on air and telling our real life strategies to some of our closest friends and our probably our most important leagues. So
I mean, are we?
I'm not sandbagging here.
Are we?
I'm giving listeners the real facts.
Hold on, let me get out of the smoke show over here.
So I think at 102, it's very interesting because you would assume that the first overall pick will be Josh Allen. We've been talking about it ad nauseum. We've been talking about it in our group chats. We've been hearing it in social media that anyone who has the first overall pick in a Superflex or 2QB league should go with Josh Allen. But there's a lot of folks like me, and I think there's more and more folks like me who do not like the way their team is built when they go QB first. And that was me. I saw that last year when I went with Joe Burrow first. I did not like my team as much. And for me at this position, I have the luxury of, yes, maybe Josh Allen comes to me, but I am more of in line where I want Jahmyr Gibbs or Bijan Robinson or Jamar Chase. Gibbs and Robinson, specifically the elite of the elite, they're going to catch 80 to 100 passes. I have a bona fide RB1 locked and loaded spot that I don't have to touch. And I'm more than happy to come back and get a quarterback in a very, like I said earlier, a very, very deep quarterback class this year. I had posted to you guys in our personal group chat where the gap between Josh Allen and the next best quarterback has decreased year over year. At one point, it was 30 to 40 points. I think 2 years ago it was 3 points. Last year was 15 points. And I don't even think Josh Allen was the first QB, or he was first or second QB. So you're seeing that dwindle year after year after year. And I really am more inclined with going after that elite skill player and setting the tone there.
I think this could be one of the years where our draft actually sees the least amount of QBs go in the first round. I know we try to say it every year, but I think you're right. Like, these skill positions are going to be really, really hard to pass up, and you're going to really have to decide, like, even going into the later part of the draft, like, you're going to have to decide, really making some tough decisions. And at 102, I think your decision is easy. In my opinion, if Josh Allen is picked, you've got the pick of the litter of either the best wide receiver or one of the two best running backs. And if for whatever reason, either a Gibbs or a Jamar Chase is picked before you, you've got Allen sitting on your plate, which again, you could go ahead and grab him, which more than likely you will, or again, you take
Yeah.
what's left of Gibbs, Chase, or Robinson.
I think it comes down to if Josh Allen is picked at 1, then you're taking Jahmyr Gibbs most likely, or Bijan Robinson. And I think that if he isn't, and if he's there at 2, then you're taking Josh Allen at 2. I think we can agree on that, Roger.
I am not taking Josh Allen at 2 if he's available.
You are not taking Josh Allen at 2?
I'm not taking Josh Allen at 2.
That's
I don't
wild.
believe that
I
for
am
a
not
second.
No, I'm not.
That's going to
taking
be
Josh
like
Allen.
2 years ago when I won and he slid to me at 3. It'll be the same situation.
I would look, like, we could go on and on about this. I really think that and just look at the QB rankings last year from a fantasy football perspective, end of season. Matthew Stafford was second, 372 points. He was about 16 points behind Josh Allen. Drake May, 368. Even someone like Jalen Hurts. Like, yeah, there's a decent gap, but Jalen Hurts missed some time. He didn't have a great game. If I could get someone, even like Jared Goff, we talked about, I would, if you look at the gap between a Gibbs and in your replacement running back, Jahmyr Gibbs in a PPR league last year finished with 368 points. Your replacement running back that you're probably getting if you pass up on a Jahmyr Gibbs or a Bijan Robinson type, you're probably looking at, what is it, Travis Etienne, sorry. That's a 100-point gap. Even Derrick Henry is a 100-point gap almost. You have to look at that replacement level value of what's the next best that you could get from a QB perspective, and then what's the trade-off you're getting from a running back perspective. And I think that's anyone who's at 1 to 3, I think that's going to be the struggle you're going to have to deal with.
Josh Allen has finished as QB2 or better like 5 years in a row. I get what you're saying, the replacement value. I understand that, but not only are you getting a massive ceiling with Josh Allen, you're getting a fantastic floor. And it's just so much easier to build out the rest of your roster when you know you have an ace of QB figured out in a 2 quarterback in Superflex league. That's where I stand on this. Like, I agree with you 100%. But when you're drafting your first pick in the first round, you want security more than anything else because it's the most important pick that you're going to be making most likely. So you want to make sure that whoever you have right now is going to maximize your output and minimize your risk. That is Josh Allen. That from a 2 quarterback Superflex perspective, that is Josh Allen.
This is a fantastic argument. It is why anyone who listens to this, like, if you're not in a at least Superflex or 2QB league, do it because it makes things so much more fun. That's how I'm looking at it at the top. But Nacc, moved down a couple of spots to Nacc, and some of those decisions have already been made for you. Nacc, you're sitting at 4, and we're going to move the graphic to kind of some of what your picks would be. We assume Allen is gone. We assume Gibbs is gone. How are you looking at your slot at the 4 range here, Nacc?
So basically, for me, it really comes down to I think realistically, Allen, Gibbs, and Chase are likely gone before me. And if it's not Chase, it'll be Allen, Gibbs, and Bijan that will be gone at that time. So for me, it's kind of the same thing. I don't know if I'm willing to go, and if that's the case, if Bijan, Gibbs, and Allen are gone, I don't know if I'm willing to risk a number 4 pick on Jonathan Taylor or even a Christian McCaffrey. Although I really liked my build last year when I went running back. I actually had Gibbs and CMC last year. So for me, if those 3 guys are gone, I think I'm going to go with the wide receiver. It's more likely going to be Chase or Puka, depending on how I'm going to spin it. Um, but I think it's going to be the elite wide receiver and hope to get, a decent running back on the way back. Again, I don't know if I'm like you were saying. I agreed with everything you said. It's really like the top tier players, like they're not going to come back around. And is it worth that top tier QB right away? For me, I don't think it is. So for me, in my head, I believe I'm getting either Bijan or Chase. Like that's what I think that
And
it comes down to, and it's one of those two that's going to be my pick.
so, if I could just jump in, everything that Fab said about Josh Allen, if you go back just 2 years ago, 2024, Lamar Jackson was at 488 yards. He led the league, and he led QBs in fantasy points. So Lamar Jackson, Nacc, not enticing to you. Joe Burrow, knowing that it's an odd year.
Think like Jackson has run less and less as his career's gone on, right? Age 30 season now, getting a little older, coming back. Yes, I know he's healthy. Again, I think the only QB I will take at the 4 spot if it falls to me is Josh Allen. I think at 4 it would be an absolute steal. I think it wouldn't make any sense to pass up at 4. But I mean, that's like we mentioned, I think Fab said it for himself. He is in a tier of his own, right? He is that one tier. I think we all had him labeled that way in our QB section as well. He was in the tier of his own. So for me, the Drake Mays, the Jacksons, the Burrows, they're all in tier 2. So I'm gonna get either a tier. I want a tier 1 player. Any way you look down at it, I have that prime position. So I want to leave the draft or my first round, excuse me, with at least a tier 1 player. So if that's a tier 1 running back, a tier 1 wide receiver, or a tier 1 QB. So the only QB I would take there would be Allen.
That Lamar Jackson argument is making me think. It's making my gears turn in my head because I feel I'm getting excited over Lamar Jackson right now. I'm looking at his stats.
It's 2 years ago.
It's 2 years ago. He rushed for 900 yards,
Declan
passed for
Doyle,
4,000.
UOC, the vibes are
He's
amazing.
Declan Doyle. Yeah, like the new OC is what's getting me
Doyle
super
rules.
excited. To be honest with you,
Doyle
it's that's going to be Lamar Jackson is definitely not going to make it past like pick number 6 or 7. I think in our league.
No, and I expect him to be a first round QB. I expect Allen and Lamar, I think, this year to go first round. I don't know if there's going to be 4. If there is a third, excuse me, Drake May, I guess, is that guy. But I feel like there's way too many of these skilled positions that you don't want to miss out on. And I think this might be the year where the 5 QBs in round 1 may not happen.
Just quickly, Nacc, and I'll let you transition to Fab. CMC, like if CMC is there, you're not willing to.
Yeah,
Is
no,
that,
no
is that,
appetite on
is that too
CMC. I thought we
early?
planted our
No,
flag and we said enough is enough.
yeah, well, like I said, as I mentioned, I just, man, there's just so much like. Yeah, it's easy to say that, yeah, we'll go, but he always has a down year after he has a good
But
year. So the worry is there. So do I really want to try to go with someone? Like I said, if there's a Jamar Chase there, like I'd rather go with someone who's super consistent, right? Like he's been consistent his whole career. The targets are there, the catches are there, the touchdowns are there. As long as Joe Burrow stays healthy, and even if he doesn't, like I'd rather the surefire guy rather than be worried with. See, I got the good CMC, the good
Good.
CMC player last year. I got him.
I got
I
that
had
good
fun.
CMC.
The good CMC. I had it. It was
you
it
got
was a good
that good
run. It was
CMC.
fun. Him and Gibbs, but I don't know. I don't know if I'm ready to dive at 4. I got him in the second round last year.
Insane.
Yeah, that was stupid. That was so dumb. One thing I think we can agree on, though, I think Nacc has the easiest decision at 4 because it's like there are those top 4 players that everyone talks about that everyone on everyone's draft board. The 2 running backs, you have Jamar Chase, and you have like Josh Allen, especially from a 2 quarterback perspective. 3 of those 4 are probably going to be gone. Maybe only 2 if someone just pulls a rabbit out of there, you know what, and decides let's just like pull this whole thing on their head. but you're going to have a very easy decision at pick number 4. I think it's going to be the best, the best that's available
I
of whatever
wonder
the
if
rest is.
Allen and Lamar go before me. I wonder if that could be a possibility. Imagine Allen and Lamar go for some reason. Allen
Not me.
goes
I don't
one,
think so.
Not me. Not me.
Allen goes one,
I don't
gives
think so.
second, and then Lamar third.
Well,
Maybe.
last year, that's how it went. Allen went 1, Chase went for second, and Lamar went third.
That was I thinking last year. That was
And then Roger took Joe Burrow like a genius, and then
looked
I took
so
Jaden
bad.
Daniels like an even bigger
It looked
genius.
so bad.
Smoking that Joe
Retrospect.
I
Burr.
got so excited with the quarterback. I got so excited with Jaden Daniels. I'm so stupid. That's why my team name is called the Idiot Kicker. That's why.
I think it needs a change. It's getting
I
stale.
actually like it. It's only been like 2 years.
And the picture is wonderful. But then you get back to the
picture's top.
back end of the draft, where we
Mm.
basically watched most of the first round develop before you have to make your decision. So Fab, you're sitting at 10, as we mentioned. What are you looking for there?
So this is actually my first time in this league picking 10, picking at the turn. I rarely pick at the turn in a lot of my leagues. And for anybody who's listening right now who's picking at 10 and thinks to themselves like, "Oh, I got a crap spot or whatever it is," don't. Picking at the 10 spot is actually, and I'm learning this now as I'm doing more mock drafts and as I'm really seeing the type of players that are available to me at that spot. Picking at the 10 spot and getting the turn after is fantastic. And I'll even go one step further. So a sleeper, the fantasy football app, Sleeper, actually put out some statistics for the draft position that won the most amount of fantasy titles last year on their app. In 10-team leagues, the second spot won the most, 10th won the second amount, the second most amount. So just to say, like, and in 12-team leagues, it was
we're drafting on Yahoo, so
yeah, it doesn't really count at all, is what you're saying. Just basically, I'm not going to win. It's fine. I'm going to finish second instead of third. It's great, and Roger's going to finish first, apparently. But all this to say,
no,
it's
Roger's
like,
going to finish second.
Roger's going to finish second.
My 5th.
We've got like 7 second place finishes.
That's true. You finished second 3 years in a row.
In Bush League, I finished second 4 times.
Yeah.
4 times. You are the Buffalo Bills of the Bush League.
Okay, pick 110. Where are we going?
Sorry, I apologize. So the way that I approach this is, like I mentioned it before too. Like, so I'll go contrarian here. If I see there's a run on quarterback, I'm not going to take quarterback. If there's a run on running back, chances are like I'm out of my tier and I'm not looking for anything exciting. And if there's a run on wide receiver, the same thing too, right? So, but I'm also going to go a little bit further and say that I'm probably not going to take a quarterback at the 10 spot. The top guys that I would have liked will most likely be gone. The Josh Allens, Lamar Jacksons, or Joe Burrows of the world. Let's just assume maybe Drake May is there, fine. But the trade-off of bumping down a tier after Christian McCaffrey for me is too big for me, like, and you have to take into consideration, because then you're not picking for a while after. You want to have an ace in every single position when you're at the 10 and 11 spot. So that's where I'm going to be looking at necessarily. I might not go running back, but I'm definitely going to be getting, I'm going to be looking to get a running back and a wide receiver. And I'm going to be looking to get a running back and a wide receiver that have stability, that ideally don't have a bad injury history, that are part of a focal point of the offense. I already have guys in my mind already. I'm going to try not to spill too much of the tea. I already have guys, but you guys probably know who I'm talking about already.
Yeah? Here we go.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah. This is a professional podcast, but the board has already spoken. You know what I mean? So like, it's nice to see and do the opposite of what everyone else is doing. That way, you can get value in different tiers at different positions.
So let me ask you then, Fab. You're okay leaving the pick 10 and 11 without a QB, knowing that 20 picks will have passed when it comes back?
Yep. I'm okay, because I also look at it as the guys that picked a quarterback in the first round are probably not going to pick a quarterback in the second round, and probably not going to maybe not pick a quarterback in the third round. because they are, unless they really want to get stacked at quarterback, and that's fine. But they're also going to want to round out their team and even out the quality of the positions that they're drafting. Like you're not going to see a guy that's going to draft a quarterback in the first 3 rounds. Like I know there are some people in our group chat that says that you know who you are,
Yeah.
but realistically, it's like no,
There's
because
a lot of
they're
our draft.
Enjoy Tony
Our draft.
Pollard.
yeah, exactly.
Enjoy Tony
Yeah,
Pollard.
Enjoy
But
J.K.
I mean, there's a lot
Dobbins.
of people in our draft that
like
go QB and also
mhm,
have two QBs by their first three picks, right? That's why I'm asking. It's just
for sure.
you're leaving with, let's say, I don't know, say it's a James Cook and Justin Jefferson or Drake London.
Yes, I'm very secure with drafting three quarterback twos, rotating them based off matchup, making sure that they play in good offenses. And we saw all the quarterback twos that exist from a very deep quarterback class. We've been seeing it ad nauseum, and having very, very good skill positions on my team. Like I'm totally fine with that.
You're gonna have the pick of the litter at 110. It's you really, and
Yeah.
you don't have the pressure either. I find like at 2 and
No.
there's a lot of pressure to like, oh, you have to have Allen, right? Like you have the pick of the litter. What you're telling me, Fab, and you guys commented as you wish. It tells me the quarterback landscape, especially in 2QB and even 1QB, it's not as appealing as in previous years, in my opinion. There's question marks. As much as we're talking about Lamar, there's question marks with him from an injury perspective last year. Drake May, can he do it? Can he replicate the amazing season he had? Joe Burrow, injury history. There's question marks
Yeah.
with everyone.
But
And maybe one thing, and I made this graphic, and one thing I'm beating myself about is I didn't put Brock Bowers and Trey McBride.
yeah, that's a very good point too, because those guys too can very well be going in the first round. It's not impossible. Yeah. I
Not
mean,
first, but easily
if I
second.
yeah, I mean, if I were to pass on a quarterback in the first round and my first pick of round 2, right? So who am I looking at potentially towards the end of round 3 and beginning of round 4? I'm looking at Jared Goff. I'm looking at Baker Mayfield. I'm looking at Sam Darnold. Are we really that upset? If my wide receiver, my running back is Christian McCaffrey and a CD Lamb, or Jackson Smith and
Sam
Jigba
Darnold's my
and
QB
Jonathan
one.
Taylor.
I'm upset personally.
There it is. I just can't wait to draft them. I gotta stop talking about my strategy over here. This is bad. Go on Rival Fantasy. Make your own strategy. Damn it.
back the put back the link, Ralph.
Put the link back up. Got a Bush League Huddle people messaging me. It's like, oh, I know who you're drafting. It goes my freaking strategy. Okay, but so that was, I mean, that was sort of our little idea, a little peek behind the curtain as to how each pick is going to go. We're going to do a quick QB check right now. See how far you can wait. Like round 1 is really only part of it. We already did the full QB tiers episode, so we're not going to get into that all over again. But let's put the board up. Thank you, Roger, and answer this question quickly. So, in a 2 quarterback or Superflex league, how far down are we actually comfortable going? I sort of answered this question a little bit just now, Raj. But I guess what's your lowest tier that you're comfortable taking your QB1 from?
Yeah, so we have the tiers up here, and the ADPs in parenthesis. If for those the viewers who aren't watching on YouTube or Spotify video, for me it's tier 3. I see a Brock Purdy who we ranked as the 12th best quarterback when we did our tiers. He's going in the 19th. That seems pretty high, but I would be happy with a Brock Purdy, a combination of Brock Purdy and Baker Mayfield. I'd be more than happy with Jordan Love. And I'm starting to buy some of the hype that exists with Malik Willis. I'd be more than happy with Jared Goff, who gets poo-pooed on, and Fab convinced me that he's constantly a QB 5 to 10 every year. So as everyone knows, I'm very, very open to having two tier 3 QBs, and there's a few tier 4s that I think can hit as well, especially since their stock has dropped considerably over the past few years.
Yeah.
Knack, for you, where's your sweet spot for your QB2?
Yeah, it's a good, definitely good question. Depending on how your board, comes down. If you're really going that hero QB style, where you do get that Josh Allen, you might be able to wait a little bit longer when as you round out your squad. But if you're getting your first in tier two or tier three, I believe by no later than round six, you need to have at least two QBs on your roster. It gives you a chance to potentially roster two running backs, two wide receivers,
Yeah.
or mix a tight end in there. But I think in a two QB league, very very important that at least two QBs should be on your roster by at least the sixth round, I would say. And that's actually when I mean, we're on the board. Does it become I waited too long, Fab?
I think the second half of tier four, if I'm being
Mm.
honest. Like
What?
after the second half of tier four is what, like if
Okay.
your starting quarterback is like Cam Ward and Daniel Jones, like then you got some serious issues, right? Like I can live in a world where my starting quarterbacks are Taylor Shuck, Tyler Shuck, and CJ Stroud. I could
Yeah.
live in a world.
Yes.
It's not a fun
Yes.
world, but I could live in it. But the second you're throwing like a Bryce Young and Aaron Rodgers as your starters, now Tua, God knows what's happening with him. Geno Smith is going to throw to everybody else but his wide receivers. Uh, Kirk Cousins and Shadur Sand and all that like that. The second those guys have to be your QB2, that's when you've officially waited too long, and that's when you hope that the rest of your team is stacked
Mm.
because you're going to need it when because I've had teams where like everyone's starting off right and when they're first starting into fantasy and they're not really sure like how to approach two quarterback leagues because it is very different and you sort of get screwed over and your second quarterback is a rookie or it's a backup and you have no choice but to start them because you didn't manage your team appropriately or manage your roster appropriately or injuries come around and all that stuff, right? It's not fun. It's not fun at all. So it's just something to keep in mind too, that like if you're drafting your second
Yep.
quarterback and he's at midway through tier four, like just
Yeah.
be advised as the quarterbacks are on the
Great.
board. Like
Yeah.
That's good advice. Like, kind of see what's the limit of, like, okay, Brock Purdy
yeah.
or even Kyler Murray has been drafted. Okay, it's time for me to get like a quarterback at my next pick. I think that's great
Yeah.
advice to figure out like where exactly do you pinpoint, you put a check mark on. I cannot
Yeah.
get a QB that's after this person.
And
And
don't think
towards the
about
later
saying like, "Oh, wait,
rounds,
I hope it comes back to me." Like if you really get to that
mm,
point, like you said, Roger, like don't say in your mind like, "Oh, maybe it's going to come back to me in four picks." Like you got to take the guy
Yeah.
because in four picks, two more guys could have gone in that
Yeah.
span.
yeah, and in the later rounds, like runs are still going to happen on positions, especially quarterbacks. Like I'm okay with jumping on a run for a quarterback in later rounds because it's one thing to say like, oh, I'm going to wait because there's all these quarterbacks left or suck. It's one thing to have a bad quarterback. It's another thing to have no quarterback. And when all these runs happen in the later rounds for the QB2s and the QB3s, you better make sure you get one. Like I know it's not fun to jump on a run, but you kind of have to.
Mhm.
You don't really have a choice if you don't have a choice.
Yeah.
But you also got to make sure you're hitting on your picks if you're
One
foregoing these
hundred percent,
QBs. That's the other thing, right? Like making sure you're
one
hitting on
million
these
percent.
top guys. Injuries happen,
Yeah,
yes,
like
unavoidable, but if you're not hitting on your picks and you're, like you said, picking Cam Ward and Daniel Jones, you're in for a bumpy season.
100%. Like and injuries aside, because we look at this now. We are August 27th. And yeah, everyone is healthy for the most part. Everyone is going to have a fantastic year for the most part. Everyone's going to, break records and be considered for the offensive player of the year and everything and all that. I mean, fast forward 6 months from now, this entire roster we have in front of us is going to be completely decimated. We have no idea what's going to happen, but a lot of bad stuff is going to happen most likely. So just get ready. Everything is roses now, but
Sounds
it's
so
it's going to
depressing.
turn ugly really quick. But it's true though. And I was looking at the draft from last year. It's like, wow, like so many people had such nice teams. Then you forget, like, no, this guy got injured week one. This guy got injured like week six. Like, this is ACL over here, torn Achilles there. Like, It's all concussion out of the league. Like Tyreek Hill broke every single ligament in both of his knees. Like it's just these things, they happen. You gotta pivot. You gotta pivot. But that's the line I guess you need to have before the draft starts. Like kind of know where is your comfort line and know when not to cross it or when to cross it. So you don't have to force a quarterback early. I think we sort of sent that ad nauseum, but you better know how far you're willing to let it go. And that sort of brings us, I guess, to our closing segment over here, the closer, if you will, the one rule that each one of us are going to have right now, the one thing that we are not breaking in a two quarterback. I can't even say it with a straight face because Roger's going to break whatever it is. The one thing that we're not breaking in a two quarterback or super flex draft this year, Raj, what? Roger has, I'm laughing a lot. Roger has a one rule that he's not breaking every single year. Last year, it was that you were leaving with a quarterback. And the year before that, it was that you were leaving with a
first. Roger,
100%.
Joe Burrow.
Joe. So Roger, what is your smoking that Joe Burr? What is your one rule that you are not breaking this year?
At my position, I want a bona fide RB1. I want a bona fide RB1. I want someone that I can set and forget, or WR1, but I want someone who I could set and forget and not have to play, matchup musical chairs on a weekly basis. And that's what I find sometimes my lineup last year with when you're dealing with like the Josh Jacobs and like Travis Etienne types, and then your flex kind of gets better. It's you pick up a better flex that maybe you could put in there. I want someone that is set it and forget it, and I think there's a ton of depth at wide receiver this year, and I think there's a ton of depth at quarterback this year as well.
Excellent.
Nacc, yours.
What's your one rule? You're taking Josh Allen, is what you're telling me. You're taking Josh Allen?
Nope.
My one rule is not to go QB in the first 2 rounds. I was burnt with that a couple years ago when I went Josh Allen, Anthony Richardson. Thought I had the league won after the first 2 rounds. That did not happen. That did not work out very well for me. So definitely not go. So not necessarily if Josh Allen falls to me, I'm at 100% certainty that if only for the gifts, I will take him at 4. But not to pick a QB in back-to-back rounds because it's just not worth it. And as you mentioned, there's so much depth at QB. I think you're comfortable starting as a QB1 probably the first 21 or 22 quarterbacks ranked this year. You'll be okay starting them as a QB1. So definitely not. That's my one rule. No quarterback draft for me. Nacc, what about Nacc? Fab, what about you?
Who? Geez, what's my one? I have a lot of rules, but there's one rule that I'm going to have. It's always do the opposite of what everyone else is doing. Kind of always go against the grain a little bit. Don't jump on position runs. I've said that before. And let the draft come to you. Best player available. It sounds stupid, but it's true. You know what I mean? Like best player available at a position that you need on your roster. Yeah, like it's that's it could, like, the draft can be very simple if you want it to be. And I feel like a year like this year, we sort of all have a pretty good idea where the value is, where the positional tiers are. And it's one of those things where, like, sort of know your league rules and know how to draft for your league rules. That's another thing too. So, but so yeah, so this is our episode, ladies and gentlemen. This is our 2QB Superflex strategy episode. But 2 quarterback doesn't mean draft quarterbacks at all costs. We've said that already. We're repeating it because it bears to be repeated. Know what they're worth. Know where your tiers fall off, and build around what the draft gives you. Next week we're going to do a live 2 quarterback mock draft. This is where we actually put all of this to the test. Very, very exciting episode. You're definitely going to have to tune in. Like you already have to tune into every other episode, but this one especially. Rival Fantasy is a partner of the Bush League Huddle Fantasy Football Podcast. Thank you, Roger, for the link. Use our link below that's on the screen right there and sign up and get free access to their draft strategy tool. Please, please, please follow us on all of our social medias, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify. Am I missing anything?
Amazon.
No. We're not on Canada Post yet. Follow us everywhere. And guys, see you next Wednesday. Or Tuesday, Wednesday, next week, Wednesday or Tuesday. You're gonna find out. You're gonna find out the episode drops, but it's Wednesday. It was Tuesday. We just changed it to Wednesday.
Okay.
I feel like Donald Trump.
So
Guys, you see that the Lake America? Is that what's happening now?
Lake America.
America.
I was just in Lake Ontario. Beautiful lake.
Oh, you're not there anymore. It's not there anymore. It doesn't exist.
Guys, I'm taking Josh Allen. Let's be real.
No, you're not. You're not taking Josh Allen. I don't see you taking Josh Allen at all. At all. Roger's a sandbagger, man. This whole episode was for nothing. 45 minutes down the drain. I apologize to our listeners. At least I was being honest here. I'm taking Jonathan Taylor.
You didn't say one name. You didn't say one name.
I'm taking Jonathan Taylor.
Goodbye.
I'm taking JSN. Peace out, everyone.
Good night, everyone.